Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now let's begin this one. My wife made me ginger tea every morning. That day was no different. She stepped out of the bathroom, her hair still wet, a cup of tea in her hand, the scent of peppermint oil drifting through the room. She placed the cup on the table, kissed me on the forehead, and smiled. "It's foggy today. You should wear a jacket." I smiled back. But inside, I was empty. I hadn't slept at all last night. I had just lost a big contract. I was planning to tell her I'd take the day off. Maybe take her somewhere. Just the two of us. No laptop. No phone. But before I could say a word, the front door exploded open. "FBI, don't move." The shout hit me like a hammer. 3 men in black coats stormed in, guns drawn. Another one followed with a search warrant. They came straight for me, slammed me to the floor, twisted my arms behind my back, and cuffed me. I shouted, "What the hell are you doing? There must be some mistake." No answer. They moved like they knew exactly who I was. I turned to Cassie. I thought she would scream, or demand an explanation, or at least grab my hand. But she didn't. She just stood there, still holding that cup of tea. Her eyes, no panic, no shock. Just empty. One of the agents read out, like a script, "Aiden Blake, you're under investigation for involvement in an international money laundering network. All digital assets will be seized under the Federal Security Act." I couldn't process it. I knew nothing about money laundering. I'd spent 15 years building a clean, transparent career. But suddenly, everything collapsed. My computer, gone. Files, shredded. Hard drives, confiscated. The house I once called home, now a crime scene. As they dragged me to the car, I looked back. Cassie was still standing there. She didn't speak. She didn't call my name. She didn't shed a tear. And in that moment, I didn't know what hurt more. The cold steel of the cuffs, or the calm, silent eyes of the woman who had shared my bed for 6 years. If she set all this up, then who was it that I ever loved? My name is Aiden Blake, 39 years old, born in a small mountain town in Tennessee. But for the past 15 years, I've lived and worked in New Jersey. I'm a senior financial advisor. Some call me the heartbeat for the restless. Sounds dramatic, but my job is simple: to make sure the wealthy can sleep at night. I don't make money by taking risks. I make money by keeping others safe from them. And for years, I slept well too. Until I realized the woman lying next to me wasn't who I thought she was. I met Cassandra Holt at a financial conference in Chicago back in 2015. At the time, I'd just taken a big hit. Lost $80,000 betting wrong on energy stocks. I still remember that night. At the cocktail party after the seminar, I told the story just to break the ice. I laughed at myself. She stayed quiet for a moment, then asked, "And you still decided to stay in finance?" I said, "I don't think I'm good at predicting markets, but I am good at learning from mistakes." Cassie smiled. Not a bright smile, but a tilted one, like she was weighing me, the way you'd weigh a product. And then she said something that never left me. "I like men who don't make excuses." We ended up on the same flight back to Newark that night. And somewhere between those airplane seats, something began. 3 months later, we were dating. 2 years later, we got married. No grand wedding, no long white dress, just a small ceremony. As I signed my name, I thought, this is the woman I can trust for the rest of my life. And for the first few years, I believed it. Completely. We lived in a 2-story wooden house in Westfield. Quiet. Neat. Less than an hour from the financial district. Cassie loved to cook. I couldn't cook to save my life, but I knew how to clean up. Every Friday night, we took turns picking dinner. Italian one week, Thai next. A small thing, but it became our ritual. Cassie wasn't the kind of woman who cared for gifts. She didn't snoop on my phone, never asked where I went. She kept a measured distance, and that made me trust her even more. I thought, maybe this is what peace really feels like. Every morning, she made me ginger tea. I'd drink it and feel like everything in the world was exactly where it should be. Sometimes I thought, maybe this is the calm I've been searching for all my life. But looking back now, I see it clearly. The thing that made me feel safe was also the thing that made me careless. I once gave Cassie the password to my emergency accounts, in case I traveled. She even had access to part of my client database to help me when needed. I thought, this is natural. We're husband and wife. We share everything. If you've ever trusted someone enough to hand them your safe key, or your bank password. You know the feeling. You don't trust them because they beg for it. You trust them because you want to. But there were cracks. Tiny ones I ignored. One night, I woke at 3 a.m. The bed was empty. I rushed downstairs. She wasn't there. 5 minutes later, she walked in through the back door, holding a bottle of water. I asked, "You went out?" She said flat, "Yeah." Fridge was empty, but her hand was ice cold, and her coat smelled like a perfume I'd never known her to wear. I stayed quiet. Told myself, maybe I'm paranoid. She's my wife. She wouldn't. Another time, I found her staring at the TV. The screen showed news about a money laundering case in Switzerland. But her eyes, they weren't the eyes of someone just watching the news. They were the eyes of someone remembering. When I asked, she laughed. Said, "I'm in PR. These things are case studies. I read the wind to know where the storm is." It was too perfect an answer. So perfect, I believed it. Now I see it for what it was. I was lulled to sleep by her logic. We never had kids, not because we couldn't, but because we weren't ready. I once asked her, "Do you want to be a mother?" She answered, "When you're ready to be a father." I stayed silent. I thought it meant understanding. But maybe it was just her way of delaying a plan I knew nothing about. People say, real happiness is when you can turn your back and know someone's guarding it. I believed Cassie was that person. I gave her my back, my trust, my life. But that morning, when the FBI kicked down my door, when they cuffed me, tore through my house, I looked back. Cassie was standing there, cup of tea in her hand, not trembling, not crying, and I realized something I should have seen long ago. Not everyone who stands behind you is there to guard you. Some are just waiting for the right moment to put the knife in. For years, I believed happiness didn't come from trips abroad or expensive gifts. It came from the small things, the familiar, the ordinary. A cup of ginger tea in the morning, a brush of her shoulder as we passed in the kitchen, our Friday night ritual, taking turns choosing dinner. Those little habits were like invisible cement, holding two strangers together, turning them into a family. But what I didn't know was that sometimes habits are where people hide their biggest secrets. One late night, I needed to send a client report. My laptop was updating, so I grabbed Cassie's. I typed her old password. Locked out. Tried again. No luck. On the third try, she walked out of her office, saw me struggling. She laughed, but the smile never touched her eyes. "What are you trying to do?" "My company tightened security." I said, "Just checking email." "Why change the whole password?" She hesitated, then took the laptop back, calm as ever. "Don't worry. My work has sensitive data." Reasonable. Too reasonable. But when she snapped it shut, I caught a glimpse. Not PR files, but spreadsheets, full of numbers. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to her steady breath, asking myself, do I even know this woman? The calls started coming late, at strange hours. When I asked, she said it was international clients, time zones. One evening, her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. A message. "Phase 2, has the duplicate contract arrived?" I froze. I had never heard her mention a Phase 1, let alone a Phase 2. I tried to open it. Locked. Seconds later, Cassie walked back in, picked up the phone, and smiled. "Curious again? Just work." Then kissed me. Quick, soft, like pressing delete on every question I had. But I couldn't stop asking myself, if you've ever lived in a beautiful house, but felt a crack in the walls, you know the truth. You can't rest, no matter how perfect it looks. Friday night, Cassie's turn to pick dinner. I set the table, poured the wine. She said she had an urgent meeting. "I'll make it up to you, Aiden. Just this once." She left. I cleaned up alone, and that's when I saw it. The wedding ring box, on the shelf, empty. Cassie never took off her ring, but tonight, she did. My chest tightened. I grabbed my keys and followed her. She didn't go to her office. She stopped at a high-end bar. A man was waiting. They shook hands, sat down. She slid him a thin envelope. I wanted to believe it was PR, some media contract. But then I heard him say, "You're sure he suspects nothing?" My lungs locked. That wasn't the voice of a lover. It was the voice of an accomplice. From that night on, I lived in two worlds. By day, I was Aiden Blake, the trusted advisor. By night, I was just a suspicious husband, watching every move my wife made. Cassie always locked her laptop, clutched her phone, took calls in French when she thought I couldn't understand. Some nights, I caught her writing in a small notebook, hiding it the second I walked in. I wanted to ask, but every time I looked into her eyes, I went silent, because I was afraid. Afraid that if I asked, her answer would turn my entire life into a lie. Then came that morning. I sat at the table, ready to tell her I'd take a few days off, that I'd take her away. Just the two of us. The resignation letter was still in my bag. Cassie walked out of the bathroom, set the ginger tea in front of me, smiled. "You should wear a jacket. It's cold out there." 1 second later, the front door exploded. "FBI, don't move!" 4 men in black stormed in, guns up. One slammed me to the floor, twisted my arms, cuffed me. I shouted, "You're wrong, I didn't do anything." They didn't listen. A steel voice cut through. "Aiden Blake, you're under arrest. Suspected involvement in an international money laundering network. All files and digital assets will be seized." As they pulled me up, the tea tipped over. Hot liquid spilled across the floor, steam curling around Cassie's bare feet. She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't scream. The way she stood there, not even flinching at the burn, froze me more than the gun at my back. I wanted her to run to me, to grab my hand, to shout, "He's innocent!" But she didn't. She stepped back, like I was a stranger. In that moment, every year we'd spent together shattered like glass. They shoved me into the car. I looked back. Cassie stood in the doorway, arms hanging loose, eyes calm, like she was sending off a delivery man, not her husband in chains. On the ride, I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just thought, if she planned all this, then who have I been living with these 6 years? 48 hours later, I was locked in a cold, white room. Every time the door opened, the same voice. "Cooperate, Mr. Blake. You know more than you think." But I didn't. The only thing I knew was that the woman I trusted to my very bones watched me fall apart and never blinked. When the interrogation lights finally shut off, I closed my eyes, and I realized I wasn't afraid of prison. I wasn't afraid of a sentence. The only thing that terrified me was this thought: I could face the whole world believing I'm guilty, but what I can't face is the look in my wife's eyes, believing they're right. They released me at 4 in the morning, after 2 days under those blinding white lights. No charges, no apology, just one short sentence. "You're free to go, but don't leave the state." Walking out that steel door, I felt like a man freed from prison, but still chained by something invisible. The parking lot was covered in mist, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. They handed me a small envelope. Inside, my wallet, my watch, my phone with all the data copied. It felt like my life didn't belong to me anymore. I almost called Cassie. My thumb hovered over her name, then stopped. I wasn't sure if I still had the right to hear her voice. Instead, I called Ethan. His groggy voice answered, "Aiden, I need a lawyer. Come to my office. 2 hours. And remember, don't trust anyone." When I reached my house, it was sealed with yellow tape. Neighbors stared, their eyes a mix of pity and curiosity. Inside looked like a crime scene. Papers scattered, cabinets forced open. In the kitchen, a dark stain on the floor. Ginger tea, the one Cassie made the morning I was taken. I knelt, touched the cold, sticky mark. A warm memory, turned into proof of absence. The bedroom was spotless, like something out of a magazine. But the closet told a different story. Shoeboxes missing. The wedding ring box, empty. I opened a dresser drawer. A slip of paper fell. A parking ticket. Manhattan. The night I was arrested. I clenched it in my hand. That something feels wrong wasn't instinct anymore. It was fact. At Ethan's office, he spread files across the table. His voice was rough, but firm. "They don't have enough to charge you. Not yet. They want to use you to get someone bigger. So Aiden, keep quiet. No explanations, no emails, no social media. Understood?" I nodded. He looked me straight in the eye. "Are you sure Cassie isn't involved?" I froze. Cassie's face flashed in my mind. The way she looked that morning, calm, silent, not shocked. I couldn't answer. Ethan didn't press. That afternoon, an email arrived. "Your financial license is suspended pending investigation." I read it over and over, like my very identity had been erased. Clients canceled contracts, one by one. A longtime friend called. "Aiden, I believe you, but my family can't take the risk." I have to move my accounts. I hope you understand." Then he hung up. The empty dial tone filled the room, and for the first time, I truly felt abandoned. That night, I opened my laptop. A notification popped up. Unusual login from Geneva. I froze. I had no clients there. Minutes later, another message. Authentication method changed. The only person who knew all my passwords was Cassie. I tried calling her. Subscriber unavailable. I played her old voicemail. Her laughter. Bought more ginger tea. Don't be late tonight. I played it again. And again. Each time. It felt like a hand squeezing my chest tighter. I couldn't stand the silence anymore. I drove back to that bar. The bartender recognized me. She comes here often. Corner seat. Gin and tonic. Last time, she was with a gray-haired guy. They exchanged an envelope. Those words stabbed like a knife. Leaving the bar, I opened a different envelope. The one Joanne had slipped me earlier. Inside were 3 photos. Cassie outside an international bank. Cassie sitting with that gray-haired man. Cassie walking out of a phone shop. On the back, scribbled in pencil, "This is phase 2. My hands trembled. Who sent these? To help me? Or to break me faster? The next days, I hid in cheap motels. Every morning, I made ginger tea from cheap packets. Bitter. Tasteless. I built a board. What I know, Cassie hid passwords. Phase 2. Geneva. The bar. The envelope. The parking ticket. What I don't know, what phase 2 means. Who the gray-haired man is. Why Cassie wasn't shocked when the FBI came. The board grew heavier each day, until it felt like it was crushing the air out of the room. One night, a message buzzed my phone. From an unknown number. "Don't do anything stupid. Stay put." Minutes later, another. "You can't win." I sent them to Ethan. His reply was short. "Block it. Don't answer." I did. But the words stayed, like someone was whispering them in my ear. At the motel parking lot, I thought I saw a figure. Gray coat. Standing still. Watching. Every time I turned. Gone. Maybe paranoia. But it kept coming back. Night after night. I stared in the motel mirror. Hollow face. Beard unshaven. Eyes red from sleepless nights. I didn't recognize the man looking back at me. Then, knocks on the door. 3 taps. I looked through the peephole. A woman. Gray coat. Hair tied back. I opened the door just a crack. The chain still on. She slipped me a card. "Aiden Blake, I'm Rachel Quinn." I frowned. "What do you want?" She glanced down the hall, lowered her voice. "I need to talk. Not about what you think. About what you don't know." Then she turned to leave. At the corner, she stopped. Looked back once. "You're not alone." And then she vanished. I stood frozen, my heart pounding like a drum. In my hand, her card, stamped with the logo of an international organization I never wanted to be part of. I turned back to the room. On the table, steam curled from a cup of ginger tea. It fogged the motel window, blurring my reflection into something unrecognizable. And for the first time in days, I felt something strange. Not just fear, but a flicker of hope. Rachel Quinn's card stayed in my hand all night, like a piece of burning metal. I couldn't sleep. At 4 a.m., my phone lit up. I dialed the number. She answered almost instantly. "I knew you'd call. Meet me at the cafe near Central Station. 1 hour." The cafe was tucked into a damp street corner. People hurried past. No one paid attention to us. Rachel sat in the back, gray coat draped over her chair, only a cup of black coffee in front of her. Her eyes never blinked when she looked at me. I sat down, went straight at it. "How long have you been following me?" "Long enough to know you're being set up." I gave a bitter laugh. "Like I don't know that already?" Rachel shook her head. "You've got it wrong, Aiden. The one you suspect most isn't the betrayer." The blood roared in my ears. I almost shouted. "Cassie, don't tell me I'm wrong." I saw her. With some stranger. Exchanging envelopes. Taking off her ring. Rachel didn't answer right away. She slid a tablet across the table. A hidden camera video played. Cassie, my wife, sat in a dark room. 3 people across from her. Her voice was low, steady. "The decoy password has been passed to the target. They haven't detected it. Phase 2 begins within 72 hours. I'll hold my position." My heart pounded against my ribs. Cassie's voice was sharp, professional. Not the same woman who brewed ginger tea every morning. Rachel looked straight at me. "Cassie is deep cover. 6 years now. embedded in an international money laundering takedown. You, unfortunately, were chosen as the perfect cover. I choked on the words. So, my marriage was just an assignment. I believe Cassie loved you, Rachel said quietly. But love doesn't mean freedom. The mission came first. I gripped the table until my nails dug into the wood. Cold spread down my spine. Suddenly, all the pieces fell into place. The changed passwords. The parking ticket. Her calm face the morning the FBI stormed in. Cassie wasn't indifferent. She already knew. Rachel dropped another envelope in front of me. Inside, photos. The gray-haired man, shaking hands with someone I recognized immediately. The Swiss banker, my biggest client. This is phase 2, Rachel said. They're laundering money through your spotless reputation. Cassie was planted to watch from inside. My throat burned. 15 years of work. Every contract. Every ounce of credibility. All of it. Just a pawn, I whispered. Then why did the FBI arrest me? Because Cassie tried to shield you. Once the network caught on, they needed a sacrifice. You were the easiest choice. My fists clenched. Where's Cassie? Rachel hesitated, then said softly, She's been out of contact for 3 days. She may already be gone. My heart plummeted. I remembered her empty stare that morning. Not goodbye with words, but goodbye with silence. Rachel slid a black USB across the table. Cassie collected this. It could clear you, or kill you faster. The choice is yours. I took it, my palms slick with sweat. Why trust me? Rachel held my gaze. Because Cassie trusted you, and I believe she wasn't wrong. Back at the motel, my hands shook as I plugged it in. Files spilled across the screen. Bank transfers, passport scans, encrypted messages. In a folder named for Aiden, there was one audio file. Cassie's voice filled the room, trembling, but clear. Aiden, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. Please believe me. My love for you was real. I still keep the ring you dropped on the beach in 2019, the night you proposed. I never gave it back, because I wanted it with me always. I couldn't tell you. If I did, we'd both be dead. Use the data I left. Prove the truth. And, if you can, forgive me. Tears blurred my vision. I slammed my hand on the table, then pulled the laptop against my chest. As if holding her, what I thought was all lies, turned out to be both the truest thing and the cruelest. The phone buzzed. I jumped. A message from an unknown number. That USB isn't yours. Leave it outside. 3 minutes. Another followed. Or your room becomes an oven. I froze. The air turned heavy. Outside, through the blinds, a figure stood still under the dim light. Gray coat. Unmoving. I clutched the USB. Cassie's last words echoing. Use the data. Prove the truth. I swallowed hard. Whispered through shaky breath. Cassie, I won't let you die in vain. In the dark, I reached for the light switch. A decision sparked inside me. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was the war Cassie left for me. And I, whether I wanted it or not, had just become her successor. The message kept flashing on my screen. That USB isn't yours. Leave it outside. 3 minutes, or this room becomes an oven. I stared at the words, my throat dry. 3 minutes. That's all I had. Through the dusty motel window, the gray coat was still there, standing under the streetlight, motionless, eyes cold, like they could see straight into the room. In my palm, the USB pulsed with my heartbeat. I knew if I set it outside, I'd live. But Cassie's voice echoed in my head, breaking, but steady. Use the data I left. Prove the truth. And, if you can, forgive me. If I let it go, she'd die again. This time, by my hand. I couldn't. I shoved the USB into my shoe, dragged the table against the door, and threw the window open. Cold wind slapped my face. I slid out, dropped onto the awning below. Pain shot through my knee. No time to care. I ran, pressed my back to the wall. Footsteps behind me. I turned. The gray coat moved. He pulled out a phone, tapped something, then looked up. A soft click. The light in my room flickered, then black. An explosion ripped the night apart. Glass shattered. Flames burst outward. The shockwave threw me to the ground. My ears rang. A few seconds slower, and I'd be ashes. I staggered up, ran, like a madman. Ahead, the glow of neon. Daisy's diner. My chest tightened. Cassie and I once sat there, all night, in the rain, sharing a cheap slice of apple pie. She had wrapped her arms around me, whispered, As long as it's you and me, the world out there doesn't matter. The memory hit me like a knife. But behind me, the footsteps closed in. I wiped my eyes, forced myself forward. Cassie wasn't here to shield me anymore. I had to carry this alone. An engine roared. A black sedan closed in. The window rolled down. A cold voice. "Blake, don't be stupid. Your life's over. Hand over the USB, and we make you disappear, clean." I didn't turn back. I cut into a narrow alley, breath ragged. But at the end, a figure blocked the way. Gray coat. A knife glinting in his hand. I froze. Every muscle locked. He sneered. "Last chance. Give me the USB." I stepped back. Brick wall against my spine. But this time, I wasn't running. Beside my foot, a broken brick. I bent down, grabbed it, fingers tight. He lunged. I roared, swung the brick down on his arm. The knife clattered to the ground. He snarled, shoved me hard into the wall. Pain tore through my shoulder, but I held on. I rammed my body into him, snatched the knife, raised it, pointed at his chest. "If you want it, take it from my corpse." My voice cracked, but it was louder than my fear. His eyes flickered, surprise. Before he could move, a car horn blasted. 3 sharp notes. "Rachel." SUV headlights cut through the alley. The gray coat cursed, bolted into the night. I collapsed to the ground, knife still shaking in my grip. Rachel rushed in, grabbed my shoulder. "I told you, once you're in, there's no way out." I looked up at her, sweat and tears mixing down my face. "I'm not running anymore. I owe Cassie that." We sat in her SUV. Rachel slid the USB into a reader. The screen lit up, lines of data flashing. Her voice dropped. "This is what Cassie risked everything for. It's not just money laundering. It's election manipulation. Phase 3 is about to go live." I swallowed hard. "When?" She met my eyes. "Grave. Within 24 hours. And Aiden, you're the last piece." My fists clenched, blood seeping from my palms. The world blurred. Only one voice rang in my head. "Prove the truth," I whispered, like a vow. "Cassie, I won't let you die for nothing." Outside, the city drowned in darkness. But I knew. The clock had started. 24 hours left. To survive, or fall with the truth. Dawn crept in slowly, a pale light spilling through the car window, painting the city in cold gray. I sat in the back seat, my hand clenched around the wedding ring. It had followed me through every dark day. A brutal reminder that Cassie was gone. Rachel drove in silence, her face tense. But I barely noticed. All sounds faded. Only my heartbeat remained. I lowered the window, raised the ring to the wind. The morning air cut sharp against my skin. I stared at the ring one last time. Memories surged. Cassie in her white dress, her hand gripping mine in the rain, her eyes whispering, "Trust me." I pressed my lips to the ring, then let it fall. It hit the Hudson below. A ripple spread, then vanished. The ring was gone, but I didn't feel empty. For the first time, I felt lighter. Cassie wasn't trapped in a memory anymore. She lived in me, in the truth I was about to bring to light. I leaned back, closed my eyes. For once, I wasn't running from the past. The SUV rolled across the bridge, the city waking in the distance. People rushed for coffee, traded morning greetings, unaware of the storm rising beneath their ordinary lives. Rachel glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You ready?" I didn't answer. I just opened my palm, a deep red mark still etched into my skin. From holding the ring too tight, the mark would fade, but the memory never would. I drew in a long breath, swallowed the pain with the truth. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. 2 words. Phase 3. The screen went dark. I sat still, staring into my own reflection. A strange calm settled in me. This wasn't over. Cassie was gone, but what she left behind had only opened another, darker door. I gripped the phone, lifted my eyes to the horizon. The sun was tearing through the fog, and in that moment, I whispered, not a cry of grief, but a promise. "Cassie, I'll keep going, and I won't let you die for nothing." The SUV sped forward, leaving the pale dawn behind. The road ahead, bright and dark at once. And in the silence, I knew the real journey was only beginning.